those of you that have joined from everywhere around the world. Friends from across the world, partners, thank you for joining us here today. I think the fact that you're with us on this call means that we can reasonably assume that you're acutely aware of the events in Israel over the past 13 days. I think there isn't a single Jew who hasn't been personally impacted, with friends or relatives who are serving in the IDF, my husband among them, or God forbid, having lost someone dear to you as a result of Hamas's barbaric attacks on our people and our land. Many of you here today are graduates of programs that we've run through JReady, the Jewish Agency's platform for emergency response and building community resilience. You guys I already have the honor of knowing personally. But for those of you who I am yet to meet, my name is Sam Robinson, and I'm privileged to work as part of the Jewish Agency's worldwide community services unit, partnering with communities everywhere to cultivate local capacity, harness relative strengths, and address ongoing and emerging challenges. Indeed, while this war is raging in Israel, we're experiencing worrying trends affecting communities everywhere. Schools have been evacuated due to bomb threats. Jewish students have been verbally attacked on campuses, even by professors and faculty members. Violent riots are taking place outside of Israeli embassies and Jewish institutions, and there are acts of vandalism and more. I think for that reason, it was really imperative for us to gather world Jewish community leaders here today to understand the nature of these challenges and how we can best address them together through our strong global networks. With this in mind, I'm pleased to introduce our key speaker for today, Ayelet Nahmias-Verbin, who is the chair of JReady and the Fund for Victims of Terror at the Jewish Agency. We're also hoping that Amira, Ahronoviz, CEO of the Jewish Agency and Director General, will be able to join us, as well as Stephen Lowy, Chairman of the World Board of Trustees of Keren HaYesod. But as events unfold on a very regular basis over here, we may need to be a bit flexible with their participation. But I believe flexibility is all part of building resilience. I want to say also, please feel free to write in the comment section throughout the session in the chat. We'll really try to address most of your comments and questions in the second part of the session. Also note that this Zoom is being recorded and will be available for you in the coming days to share, to watch again and to share with partners around the world. So thank you, and Ayelet, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you all for joining us. This is so important to us. I was trying to figure out in the past few hours, how am I going to start? Because as Sam, Yael, and Lior know, I've been Zooming all over the world for the past 13 days. Yesterday was LA, the day before that was Montreal, Toronto, Australia, Europe, wherever. And at the beginning of the week, or at the end of last week, I told Lior, Sam, and Yael, we have to get the JReady community together, because we need to try and explain to you, and we're going to leave a large part for your questions, because I can only imagine how difficult it is to be where you are in your communities now and to have a look at what's going on here. It's difficult. First of all, I want to apologize. This is an hour when Hamas really likes to shoot over Tel Aviv. So I might have to run to the shelter with my kids. So I just wanted to, yesterday and the day before yesterday, the minute I started speaking, Hamas started shooting over Tel Aviv. So I hope that's not going to happen to us, and I hope there's not going to be any sirens at all, but I was just, for the sake of letting you know, I prefer to say it up front. This is something that none of us could have ever imagined that would happen in Israel, in the borders of Israel. You know, this is not somewhere far away. This is not Syria. This is not Lebanon. This is not, you know, even Sinai. You know, any kind of wars that we ever went through, this is something that we could never imagine. It was programmatic. It was genocidal. None of us is very careful these days with the word Holocaust, and I'm someone who's very, very cautious about using any kind of words that even, you know, kind of resemble the Holocaust. And I think this is something that we need to understand. that would happen there is definitely genocidal. And also, I'm not so afraid and so reluctant to use terms that are related to the Holocaust. What happened there was programmatic. It was targeted at Jews. Unfortunately, also Bedouins and non-Jews were also assassinated. Also, the chairperson of the Fund of the Victims of Terror, I think Sam mentioned that, and it's important to know that the emergency grant that we give the families, we give, without any regards to religion or nationality, because people who were here, even Thai workers who were unfortunately assassinated in this massacre, are also getting the emergency grant, and it's very, very important for us to keep it equal. In the past 13 days, I've been roaming between families. The funerals just started this week. We didn't have funerals up until now. They just started in the past few days because it was very difficult to identify the bodies. It was very difficult to bury, and one must understand that when you're not burying, you're not even in the grieving stage, and we're not there. And what we're trying to figure out is how are we, who are sharing always with you as a JReady community, how are we sharing with you the ability to come out of this? And I'm not speaking about recuperating at the moment, and I'm not speaking about rehabilitation yet. I think it's going to take time. But bear in mind that this is the end goal. And by the way, I think that is part of the resilience. I think this is the first layer. Amira Ahronoviz, who joined us, the CEO of the Jewish Agency, with whom I spend a lot of time texting, and also, unfortunately, time comforting families and unfortunately going to funerals. We speak quite a bit about it, about what is the support that we can give as Jewish Agency, as the Fund of the Victims of Terror, and obviously also as JReady, because what I was telling our team is that everything that we have been passing on to you, now we need to make sure that we also know how to practice it in our own communities. One of the amazing things here, and this is something that we need to make sure that it continues, is that it was communities that were mostly harmed. The community of Be'eri, of Kfar Aza, of Nir Oz, of Nachal Oz. These are the communities that are most harmed. There is also the community of the party that was going on. That is also a community that we are looking at, but this is a different thing. These, in the community of Be'eri and Kfar Aza, these are communities that have been there for 70 years and are actually taking care of each other. But we also need to bear in mind that over 10% of the Be'eri community were assassinated. Even yesterday, this is something that is really unbearable, but even yesterday, they still found out a body of a child who was burned alive. When I'm saying these things, and again, I'm articulating it every evening, I still don't believe that, I still don't believe the words that are coming out of my mouth. This is not something that you can contain. I want to say something about the war, because this is not an escalation. This is a war. And I know it's discomforting. And what I keep saying, I go on television a lot. And what I keep saying is that the communities are going through what we're going through. And that's how I feel about you. That's why I'm so appreciative of the time that you took and to spend this afternoon with us, or your morning, or whatever, because I really feel that you are going through the war with us. And that's not obvious. I see it in the donations, in the commitment, in the telephones that I get, in the conversations that I spend time with. But I want to tell you something. Please continue to share with us things that your community is going through. From our perspective as JReady and the Fund of the Victims of Terror, because again, I really feel that you are a part of what we're doing. Please share with us things that are concerning you in the communities. Because I really feel that this war that's going to go on for a while now, apparently, you're probably going to go through a lot of things in your communities. And I'm not just talking about anti-Semitism raising its ugly head. There are a lot of things going on. And I want you to feel very, very comfortable to share with us your concerns, your thoughts, things that you're afraid of, questions that you have in regards, for instance, this catastrophic fake news about the hospitals in Israel. I can assure you, okay, as a former member of Knesset and a member of the Security and Foreign Relations Committee in the Knesset, I can assure you that hospitals are marked never to attack. My husband is in Miluim, Sam is in Miluim, we have Leo, who is representing JReady in Miluim on reserve duty at the moment. I'm telling you, please feel assured that you can also ask us questions like that. Even though we are going through a war and need to see how there is light at the end of the tunnel, but, it's going to take time. But please feel free to ask us questions. Sam is here. Leo is here. Yael is here. We're all here. I'm here, obviously.
Ayelet, also, we're pleased to see that Amira is with us too.
I mentioned Amira. That's why I mentioned Amira. I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna pass it over to her soon. That's why I mentioned her. I always mention her, but I also mentioned her now because I saw that she joined us. Anyway, it is very, very important for us that even in this situation, you please keep in touch with us. Please we would love to see what we can do for you at the same time that we are taking care of our own here, because we are all together in this. The big Jewish community in Israel and outside of Israel, we're together in this. And I want you to know that JReady is here, and he's here for you as well. And I want to thank you for your continued support. I think it's very, very important, and we feel it all the time. As I said, it's not easy. The situation that we're going through is far from being anything that we ever known before. But I want to share it with you. And when you're a part of this community that's called JReady, I think it's a little bit not easier, but comforting, and allows us to share what we're going through emotionally, and also know-how, also knowledge. Please, because the most important thing at the moment is to make sure that you do not rely on the knowledge that is sometimes passed as fake and causes harm, which is completely, I don't know if you noticed, but the General Secretary of the UN apologized to Israel for, passing on this fake news regarding the hospital. It is so important to be knowledgeable about what's going on here. And even though it's not a regular situation, by far not a regular situation, we're strong and resilient, and we're going to come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those opening words, Ayelet. Amira, we're so pleased that you were able to join us. And I know this is a very stressful time with many things going on at any given second. So I'm going to hand it right over to you.
So thank you, Samantha, and thank you, Ayelet and Yael. And yes, we are, I think on routine days, we're working on a multiple level. In the last 12 days, I don't even find the way to describe it. I'll say that for us, and I'm sure you've heard from Ayelet and from the different briefings and media that is out there, this is really the most difficult time Israel has gone through since its establishment. And the implications for us as the Jewish Agency are enormous. The Jewish Agency for Israel is not only a large organization, a global one, as you know, you learn to, I hope, appreciate the scale and the breadth of what we do through the JReady network. But as you all know, we are based in Israel, and our role within the Israeli society when such an emergency happens is a very wide and significant one. So it is true that we are at any given moment located in 65 countries, but we have huge operation on the ground in the state of Israel, whereby we are responsible for the lives of tens of thousands of people who are 24/7 residing and living in our facilities. So at any given moment, even if you take the southern part of Israel, the Gaza border, Gaza envelope, as we call it, at any given moment, we have thousands of newcomers to Israel who are spending their initial first period in Israel prior to really integrating and acclimating within our own absorption centers. We have thousands of senior citizens who are residents of our affordable old age homes of Amigur, a subsidiary of ours. We have thousands of Israeli families which we take care and treat on a daily basis that come from among populations at risk, as well as thousands of participants from programs abroad who are spending time here in Israel under our responsibility. And so when anything goes out of routine and an emergency happens, those are the populations that first and foremost we are responsible for. In case of such a dramatic tragedy as the one that has happened in the last 12 days in Israel, this means that we have to evacuate thousands of people out of those facilities and place them in different other places in Israel that at least for the time seem a bit more relaxed or more safe, even though as we are seeing the northern arena is heated and escalated as well and suffering missiles attack in the last couple of hours, and we'll see where this takes us. So that's one major role of ours. We have to provide them with the same kind of things that you as the JReady network had to provide your community members when you were going through various emergency periods, whether it's the COVID or other circumstances. So providing them with the very basic humanitarian needs of food and equipment, as well as safety, but also resilient and supporting their mental well-being and addressing cases which require special assistance, whether on an individual level or a family level. So that's a huge role of ours towards our populations. But I'd say probably more important is that in such cases, we go back to our original definition, the Jewish Agency for Israel, which has been, the arms of implementing and establishing the country prior to its establishment, and stayed as such, as an infrastructure of the Jewish people, a national infrastructure to provide all the support Israel, the state of Israel, the government of Israel, the society of Israel needs in such cases. And we have various ways by which we offer and provide our capabilities, our operational capacity. The first one is the Victim of Terror Fund, the one that Yael manages professionally and Ayelet leads in an inspiring way. I'll say that you probably heard from Yael that the fund has extended and expanded its work in a way that we have never faced and probably have never imagined. So whether on a regular year, the Victim of Terror funds, which provide the immediate grants and the long-term support and assistance, accompanying those people in their journey to rehabilitate from the trauma they've gone through. The scale that we on a usual year address is a few hundreds of families. Never did we have during a very short period of emergency to outreach and assist thousands of families, which is what we're doing now. The fund has already reached and started to process grants and take care of over 3,000 families. And we believe we will probably have to do that twice as more, probably to 5,000 or 6,000 families at least. This means that we are present all across in the hospitals, in the temporary places where those communities from the destroyed kibbutzim have been evacuated to, visiting the families, paying Shiva visits, addressing all the needs of those families in those very difficult first days. So that's kind of one huge national infrastructure that we provide. And we know that when we think about the longer term journey of those people, we will need to provide them much more than what we had been doing in the past. And it's something that is on our mind and also becomes a major, I'd say, task of ours to raise the funds to do that. That involves tens of millions of dollars. If you just take the extrapolation of assisting 6,000 families in immediate term and then on a longer term, this really comes to accumulates to a very, very large magnitude of resources that we will need to raise. I'll say at the same time, we're offering the government and the other authorities our capabilities in construction. We have a subsidiary, Amigur, that is running old age homes and constructing for the government a lot of different projects. And we know that now those communities who've been evacuated from those kibbutzim will probably not be able to go back to their settlements and kibbutzim for quite a time. Definitely in the immediate term, they need some solutions. They're right now spread in hotels all across the country, but this is not sufficient to hold on for much longer. And so looking for different temporary physical arrangements for them, where to live and where to reside, where mainly they want to stay as a community, as part of a way to be able to heal and somehow cope with the situation. We're offering different opportunities and solutions to the government to try to help some of those communities who are now displaced to find some temporary midterm solutions for the residency. Another example is that we are very much, I'd say, involved in working with the different government arms who are identifying needs of volunteers in the Israeli society today. We know that the rehabilitation of the area would require a huge workforce, which currently Israel is lacking. Even in the immediate terms, there is a shortage of doctors and medical teams. There is a shortage of social workers and psychotherapy people who can provide treatments. And so we are looking into where is it that our positioning, that we are present and working all across the world with people like you, with leaders like you, with people who have gained experience and knowledge and skills about resilience, about emergency preparedness in various ways. You know, could we somehow link between the two, between volunteerism, opportunities and needs here in the Israeli society, in the immediate term and in the midterm? And then volunteers out there who have expressed desire to come and to help. This will probably take a bit more time to get a better mapping and understanding of the priorities and the needs and the operational aspects, but it's definitely an area that we will continue to work around. And we're looking into other aspects of where is it that we can help those populations who have been suffering so much. For example, the small and micro business sector, the economy, which has been shut down overnight since the October 7th. People definitely cannot continue to run their businesses or to attend their workplaces. What does it mean? Where is it that we can help some of those populations who have survived to prevent themselves from an economic breakdown until the government gets itself together and provide assistance? And so in all of those things that I'm describing, never do we pretend or imagine that we need to replace the government, but we understand that for the government, it takes time to get itself around creating a policy and channeling resources. Definitely now where the country is still under war, we're not yet in any aftermath, we're still in the midst of the war. And so our role, mobilizing the Jewish people with their solidarity and with the support and with the care and with the resources, along with our operational capacity, because we are there on the routine, on the daily level, spread all around the country. How can we now use that and provide that to enable to take care of all of those who've been evacuated, who've been suffering, who've been affected, and help kind of bridge this gap, definitely in the immediate need, in the various ways that I described. And I should say that in our internal discussions, we see you, the global network of JReady, those people who we've been able to already engage and harness into these kinds of situations in your own communities. We're thinking, where is it that you might be of a help, whether virtually from afar, whether at a later stage, hopefully also here in Israel. And so I think a lot of things would still have to to be waiting for the war to end, hopefully sometime soon. But it does seem that we're not yet probably at the worst moments, and so we are taking every I'd say capacity that we have and trying to make sure that we are accessing it to those communities who needs us to do it more than ever.
Thank you, Amira. We have a few questions in the chat if you have a bit more time to stay with us. Sue from Colombia is asking about Aliyah, whether we've put our Aliyah efforts on hold during this time.
So I'll say we never closed the gates of the country, never ever. We didn't close them in any of the wars, nor during COVID. We actually struggled and fought to keep them open. And also now, anyone who is willing to still come, we accept them, we enable them to come, and we welcome them, and we help them in their first stages here in Israel. I should say that we are seeing, and quite naturally, people who have decided to delay their aliyah, who had plans to come and are withholding their plans for a couple of weeks now to see, where this develops. And so we are facing right now in the current 12 days some cancellations of olim that we were expecting. On the other hand, we see some groups that are coming, even groups of young adults or youth people that were planned to come into programs. We have their desire is still to hold the plans and come. We'll have to, monitor this and see. I'll say that the history has shown that post-wars, actually, there was an increase in aliyah. People, for various reasons, felt that was the right time to make aliyah. And so we will have to see how this, develops. But anyone who wants to come can come, and we're helping and assisting with flights and with absorption arrangements.
Thank you very much. The next question from Jared in South Africa. Where do we even start with addressing the trauma of children and probably many orphans who are being so impacted by this situation? How can we assist them at this time and long term?
So first of all, I should say that it's amazing to see that, this ecosystem has evolved and developed in Israel in a way that I think is uncompared to any other country. We have a lot of, I'd say, formal authorities, whether it's the network of resilience centers, whether it's the social security arms on behalf of the government, whether it's other civil society organizations, which, has developed an expertise in accompanying and working with people who have been traumatized around the terror attacks or those rounds of missiles in the Gaza envelope. But I think the current ecosystem is not ready and capable to address this kind of a large magnitude, both in terms of the number of cases as well as the horrific, horrible sceneries and experiences that people have gone through. So I think there will have to be here some development of, I'd say, of new care providers, as well as new, I'd say, protocols as to what this means. Again, we are taking our immediate share through the Victim of Terror funds. We are already expanding our services. We expanded our team dramatically, and we plan to diversify the kind of services that we give and accompany those people over the long term. But I think there will be probably an immediate gap that will need to be addressed with regard to those populations who never were part of this kind of trauma, both in terms of their scale, in terms of the age, and in terms of the catastrophic things that they went through. We have no reference to that, I should say. And never did anyone imagine that this is the kind of trauma they would have to be prepared to deal with, helping people.
Thank you, Amira. We have a number of other questions that we're going to ask Ayelet to address. So meanwhile, Amira, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate this update and you sharing with all of our community leaders around the world. And thank you.
And I thank you for taking the time to be with us from the far, to care for us so much. We receive so many warm emails and calls, and we know that you are there thinking about us, and I want you to know it means a lot to us and it strengthens us a lot. So please continue. Don't stop doing that. And I think only together we will be able to somehow come strong out of this situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ayelet, are you ready to take on some of these questions?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So our friend Anthony from Melbourne has asked a couple of things. First of all, are we specifically addressing those who've been evacuated to places like Ma'ale Hamisha? I know he has a personal interest, a family member who's supporting those efforts. And also, what can people do from afar to help?
So obviously we are reaching everyone. It takes time, but the Fund of the Victims of Terror is the only entity in Israel so far, the only fund, and the only one that has addressed 2,500 people until now. Again, we need to understand that the estimate of the number of people who were assassinated is about 1,500. It still stands, what the number that is published is 1,300, but we expect it to be about 1,500. We have 3,000 wounded, and we have many, many people who have had to be evacuated from their houses. And also we have a new type of terror, which is the kidnapping and the missing people. So we have to address each and every issue separately. What we did starting off is to grant the emergency grants instantaneously, and that's how we reached 2,500 people. In Ma'ale Hamisha, you have Netiva, Sarai, if I recall correctly, and also maybe Zikim. But definitely each one of those kibbutzim or yeshuvim, the small towns, are going to get our support. It is very, I think Amira mentioned that at the end, we are like in baby steps when it comes to this kind of trauma. This is not a regular, again, you don't call terror regular, but when we have had to address terror attacks, we have had to address different kind of terror attacks. And this is not a regular thing, not trauma-wise, not physically wise, and even financially wise, because for the past 21 years, the Fund of the Victims of Terror have taken care of 9,000 families. In this event alone, the immediate circle, and the second circle is an estimate of 5,000 people. I have started saying the number 10,000 people, because I think 10,000 people are going to be the circle of the people who are going to be affected by it, because trauma-wise, it's something that develops. And from our experience, post-trauma is something that can come out bursting at a much later stage than what we're seeing at the moment. I would even dare to say that after visiting some of the people, some of them are really unprepared to get any kind of help at the moment, okay? So this is a gradual thing. As to the very kind question of what you can do, then donating to the Fund of the Victims of Terror, I think you probably have already seen our landing page of the Fund of the Victims of Terror, because I think the most important thing that we do, and we will be doing in the next coming, definitely in the coming month, but also in the coming years, is to support the families in much broader way than just the immediate financial grant that, again, just allows them some kind of small relief when you leave your house without, with only your clothes, only clothes to your back, and that's it. You don't have a toothbrush, you don't have a toy to your child, you have nothing. This is it. You don't even have your credit card on you. They didn't have their identity cards, which is also something that we took care of in the Fund of the Victims of Terror. Just, again, trying to push away bureaucracy, okay? So donating to the Fund of the Victims of Terror would be very, very much appreciated. But I think I didn't say it at the beginning, and I think this is something that I want you to carry with you. You are part of our resilience. That's how I see it. I don't think I said it the way it should be put. You are part of our resilience. Without you, our resilience is completely different. The fact that I'm coming to those families with Yael, and sometimes with Amira and with other people, and I tell them I am bringing the hug of the Jewish communities around the world, is something that is enormous to them. Because a lot of the people in Israel nowadays are not as familiar with the fact that there are strong and important Jewish communities around the world. And when we bring over your hug, and this is what I do, I bring your hug to them. This is part of the resilience, knowing that you have brothers and sisters out of Israel who are thinking about them and who are part of what we're going on and of what is going on. That is so important.
Thank you, Ayelet. Actually, the next question leads us very nicely onto the next part of what it is that we can do to support each other in the communities around the world. Coming from your dear relative, Tali, in Greece, a lot of the Israeli expats and communities are going through trauma themselves with everything going on, many close relatives here in Israel. How can we and can Jewish communities support those Israeli expats, especially during this time?
The ones that are, Tali, you were asking about people who are coming to Greece, right?
We already have, and we already organized a hotline immediately
Amazing.
to find places to stay and to help them in any way we can. And today we had the first gathering in our JCC where 25 families of traumatized Israelis with little kids that were afraid of the rockets and whatever. You know, it's crazy. It's even that they were not like.
Do you know where they come from, by the way? Do you know where they come from in the South?
All over, not necessarily the South. It's
really?
mostly young couples with very young kids that came with an open ticket. They don't know if they will go back. Some have a ticket for next week, but they don't know if they will extend. In any case, together with Monis, who is responsible for the crisis management team, we are trying, but it's, you know, it's very complicated. We haven't ever dealt with something like that, with something that traumatic. And
I think this is something that Yael and I should discuss and see how we can help, maybe via Zoom with therapists or people who are working with us. Yaeli, are you with us? Yael? We lost Yael. Sam and Lior, I think we should
I'm with you. You're with you.
Yaeli, we can't hear you well.
We have the volunteers. It's not the hands that we are missing. We have a lot of people that want to help.
No, but it's the knowledge.
We don't have the know-how. That's the
knowledge. Yeah, the know-how. Yael, I think we should speak to either Natal or Iran, maybe Shiri Daniels to have a Zoom. I think we can definitely. I think this is something that via Zoom is completely feasible, and we'll see what we can do about it. Let's take it offline, Talia. I think that's very important, and you're again raising a very, very special, specific. Greece is has become like
the second home.
Israel, like an extension of Israel. I completely understand being half Greek. I completely understand why, but again, I'm not a problem. I'm not going to go to live in Greece anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tali. Thank you.
And this actually may connect nicely, but additionally, some of our partners around the world have asked how they can use their specific expertise, whether it's in trauma and therapy or doctors and other professionals, how they can also be of support over Zoom or in person.
I've been asked this question almost on every Zoom that I have with any Jewish community around the world, and we're so appreciative of that. I think that's going to take a little bit time for us to understand the need, for instance, for English-speaking people who might, who Zoom, for whom Zoom is a good tool, is a relevant tool. But I think the one thing that we can do, Sam and Lior, I think that would be wonderful if any of you could share like a list of therapists, of professionals in any kind of material, any kind of profession, in the sense of can be social workers, can be therapists, can be in any kind of profession that that Zoom is relevant for. And I think if we could have a JReady list from the communities and including languages, etc., I think that could be amazing.
And also what I would encourage you all to do is reach out to your local Jewish agency representatives, the heads of the delegations in all of your regions, who are actually compiling these sort of lists of people who are willing to volunteer their expertise in these different arenas. And hopefully we'll be able to consolidate that and work with the relevant authorities in Israel. Maybe there'll be an opportunity to bring people here to implement their expertise here. Maybe we'll be able to do sessions via Zoom. For those of you who aren't familiar with your local representatives of the Jewish agency, you can feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure that you're connected.
Absolutely. I think that would be wonderful. I think that would be great if we could do that. And I think that would really allow for us to know, because I think some of the things we just don't know that we need, but at a later stage, we're going to find out that we need them. So as much as you have any thoughts about how we can prepare ourselves for future needs, I think that would be amazing. And also, discuss it with Sam and Lior and Yael. Our team is always here for you. And as I mentioned before, I think it's very, very important for me to let you know that we are here. In spite of everything that's going on, I want you to know that we are here, because I really feel like this war is not just, it's not just us, and it's not just ours. I really feel that the Jewish communities are in a completely different place than ever before. And I want you to know that we're here for you. just the same.
Sam, may I say some words? I'm from
Absolutely.
International Project from Switzerland, and I'm very glad that what you said. I mean, even if it's a sad story, but our organization, while this war started, we have been together with officials, 400 officials from the Ukrainian government, and trained them in trauma. And the good news, and this is why I like to encourage you today, is we are already ready to come to Israel. We have already the funds together that we could really help you with trauma. And our trauma is our trauma therapy. One of the people is here also on the webinar, and this is for official people, for mothers, for children. We start with 8 years, and I hope that we later can communicate together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's incredibly kind of you. I'm going to put the email address to write to in the chat, JReady's email address, so you'll all have it available. And very generous and kind offers such as these, we would love to hear from you and be in touch with you. So please reach out.
I think Agnes is one of our people who is here, is already in touch with you. But I just thought it's an encouragement for everybody, because it's really bad music here.
Yes, it's really nice to see you and your faces and how much you are devoted for Israel. And we are having here in Hungary, I am now from Hungary, a prayer group for Jerusalem, for the peace of Jerusalem. And they are very good experts, a little group, but also a representative from the Hungarian Zionists is there. And we had a prayer meeting right after we heard about the war. And it is also for us a trauma. So we have to deal with this in our own lives, as well as to be able as soon as possible to help all other fellow people. So International Projects is the initiator of this prayer group we have in Hungary. So we are making common projects with international projects all over the world. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you.
So in the next 5 minutes or so, we'd really love to hear from you guys about what's going on in your communities. What's this general sense, any challenges that you're experiencing, and we can then later strategize on how to assist each and every one of you. So if anyone wants to go ahead and speak.
And also ask questions. I mean, if there is something that we haven't answered. Oh, Anthony Rosemarin.
Hi.
Hi, Anthony. You're muted.
Hi. Sorry.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this webinar. It's really helpful to connect always. So we in South Africa are in an extremely hostile environment with our
I've been following
the South African government. I'm sure you know all about it.
I've been following up closely. This is actually South Africa was the reason that I initiated the webinar. I think Sam and Lior and Yael know that.
Yeah. It's been a real, it's been extremely difficult. They've called for the closing of the Israeli embassy, for shutting down El Al Airlines here, all sorts of graffiti on walls. And it's really, you talk about Holocaust events. I think a lot of South Africans are feeling extremely uneasy here at the moment about the actions that have gone on here. And we're a tiny community, tiny. So it really reverberates.
Can you remind us how many?
We're about 45,000 in South Africa.
It's not so tiny. We have here with us much tinier.
We used to be 200, but certainly we sent a lot to Israel. So But I think my question really, and I think it's not a frustration, but you know, we've done a lot here in terms of trying to help and the fund and everything. But is there anything specifically here and now that you feel from a distance we can assist with outside of just fundraising, you know, or carrying on with our normal day? There are a lot of South Africans who want to get involved, who want to help, who want to fly to Israel and volunteer, but I know that this is not the ideal time to do that, and it will come. But here and now, is there anything that you can identify or that you can suggest that we can ask our community to do here and now that they can feel that connection and share the love to you guys over in Israel?
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something that just came to mind while you were asking. I didn't think about it earlier because I didn't know what kind of questions I'm going to be asked or we're going to be asked. And I'm going to tell you something that is very outdated, might sound outdated, might sound in our digital age like something analogical and irrelevant. But I think writing letters to children, from children in the community in South Africa, that you're thinking about them, for instance, like every community, adopt Be'eri, adopt Kfar Aza, and write letters to the children in the kibbutz. I think that could be an amazing thing. I can tell you, you wouldn't believe it, but it's like Yom Kippur War all over again. We're sending packages to the soldiers, and every package of food, of equipment, of whatever has a letter in it. So obviously you can do it also with the soldiers, but I truly think that it is much more important now for me, if anything good can come out of this catastrophe, is re-educating Israelis about the importance of the Jewish communities around the world. And I think, and Sam, I don't know, this is like kind of nice small projects for JReady that we can take care of. That every community decide that they are adopting, this one is adopting the Tivasara, this one is adopting, and just writing letters to the kids and the families there. And I think that could be something very, very strengthening. I don't know if Yael thinks I'm crazy, but I hope she doesn't think I'm crazy.
Just to say that we had we had a solidarity march with the community, and one of the tables at the march was exactly that, was the youth movements in South Africa writing letters to the kids in Israel, and the schools have also initiated here a process of doing similar thing, and I think it's a beautiful thing, and it certainly gives the kids some maybe some respite and some understanding. So we'll continue to do that, and we'll definitely include you guys in that process.
I also think that if we can, Lior, I think we can create a digital, if we get a copy of these letters, we can create a digital JReady solidarity wall. And I think it's a good time to change the JReady landing page and into letters that, the kids are sending from around the world to the communities in Israel. I think that could be an incredible thing, it's very, very strengthening. Thank you, Anthony. And take good care.
Yeah, so we'll continue to discuss this for sure. Harvey.
Thanks. My question is, in addition to the financial grant to victims of terror, what other tangible support is provided?
What other tangible
support?
I think we are all very, very focused on the fund, and thank you, UJA. Thank you, Harvey. Everyone in UJA. I know you're so committed. I spoke to Jonathan. I spoke to Louise. I spoke to Joshua Rowe. Thank you so much for your commitment. I think this is very tangible at the moment, because what we're doing, you need to understand that besides the emergency grant, what our small team is doing, as Amira said, our team is bigger now with a lot of volunteers, but still, this is a small team in comparison to what we need to do. But we're going around the hotels to meet the evacuees. We are collecting and taking care of all sorts of needs that are not, by the way, not all of them are financial. A lot of the needs are just, bureaucracy and things like that. And I think the fund is, again, I'm the chairperson of the fund, so I'm very, very committed to it. but I really do think, looking at the long run, the fund is the most important thing at the moment, and I think that's how the Jewish Agency sees it. And I'm going to tell you something, as partners and people who are a part of the Jewish Agency, not just of JReady, of the greater organization. I've got to tell you something. A few months ago, I was interviewed for a personal long interview, and everybody, in Israel, some people, along the years have been skeptical about the position and the role of the Jewish Agency in the Israeli society. We already have a state. And 3 months ago, I said that the Jewish Agency was very, very important in 1948. I dare to say that it's more important in 2023. And God knows I didn't know what I was saying at that time. And I think everybody now in Israel agrees with me. I think a lot of the things that we are doing are not feasible without the Jewish Agency, Harvey. And in that respect, that is why the Jewish Agency is very, very focused now on the Fund of the Victims of Terror, besides all the other things that Amira has described to you that are very, very important.
Thank you. Jared, I see you've raised your hand, and then I'm going to relate to something that came up in the question and answer section.
Hi, Amira. Hi, Ayelet. Thank you so much for today's webinar. I just wanted to segue into what Anthony was saying earlier. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa, and there's a learning that that we have as a community that I think can assist communities around the world. I've been in South Africa all my life, and there's always been a threat of violent crime, and because of that violent crime, there's been substantial investment in physical security. So whether it be bars on your windows, security gates at the front of your house, at the front of your shul. 10 years ago, when there was a risk with that our community security organization in tandem with the Jewish Agency picked up, there were concrete bollards that have been placed in front of all the different synagogues and installations of education, etc., etc. And I just think at this time of heightened anti-Semitism around the world, I think that physical security is paramount. And even if it means parking motor cars, just use the assets that you have. And I think that if I could just stress that, I know I'm preaching to the converted over here, but if you look at Chabad of Poway in California, you look at the Pittsburgh massacre, there was no physical security. But if you look in Germany a couple of years ago, there was that shul attack that happened. The only reason why nothing happened is because there was a thick door and the door was locked. So I just think that our senses of security at the moment are incredibly heightened. I don't think we can take anything for granted, and I just think maybe we can use JReady as a resource, just to distribute this throughout the world. I was in Philadelphia a few years ago. I was actually shocked. I went to a synagogue there. I said to them, "Oh, very nice. You got a state police car parked outside. What's that going to do? I can walk through the back door with whatever I want to do and come and do whatever I want to do." And I just think too many lives have been lost. So that's what I just wanted to share.
Jared, your suggestion is that that might be a very good idea to kind of create like an instructions manual as to a recommendation of how to act while this war is going. I think that's a very good idea. Idea.
Like even at my synagogue that I went to this past Shabbat, what we did there is we've got a gate and we've got a wall, but we parked the cars that are parked over Shabbat against the wall. So if anyone wanted to come and try and bash the gate down, they were going to hit the car on the other side. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to mean that we've got to go and deploy huge amounts of financial resources. But I definitely think, in light of this, we've seen copycat things in Sweden. We've seen things in France. We've seen things in London. South Africa, as Anthony was saying, it's a little bit of an enigma, because the government supports Hamas. So you're not going to have that, please God, you're not going to have that lone gunman who's trying to raise the awareness. Everyone knows that they're anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, etc., etc. So in a funny way, we know who our enemy is. You know, so we can lock down our synagogues, we can block off roads, we can park vehicles, we've got armored cars. The community's actually got a brilliant infrastructure that's been funded via the chief rabbi, via the community security organization. They set up another organization called the Community Active Patrol. And you know, Anthony was referring to the march that they had on Sunday. I tell you, I drove past. I didn't take part in it, but I was on the outskirts of it. You wouldn't want to go near there. There were Jewish guys, all trained in firearms, massive vehicles, massive roadblocks, etc. I just think this is a model that can be rolled out the world over.
Come visit South Africa. It's great.
Thank you, guys.
I'm really concerned about you. You can ask Samuel and Lior. I sent them the movie of the president of South Africa speaking at the rally for the Palestinians for Hamas, and I told them, listen up. This is, you know, we can't. This is really unimaginable, but there you go.
Absolutely. And we will absolutely continue these conversations. They're hugely important. I know we're over time, but I'm wondering if we can just address one final issue. And Yael Salan, apologies. We'll continue this conversation with you.
No, but we should
there is a question in the chat from Serbia, and I think this is very, very relevant across the board, about the lack of empathy coming from governments, and that is increasing violence against Jews and communities, with governments really not doing anything about it.
I think we're all very concerned about that. We speak between the lot of us. We speak about it a lot. I think it really varies from government to government. No doubt, we all need to buckle up, and then that's why this webinar was so important to me, because I knew that we all have to buckle up. The fact that we are here with the sirens doesn't mean that you don't have silent sirens in your communities, and I'm very, very concerned about it. We saw in Germany the Magen David across over Jewish houses and things like, again, it's like 80 years ago. So I think the government here is very, very concerned about it. At the moment, the countries where the largest communities are showing, the government is showing very big support of Israel. To this point, I should stress, to this point, that's the situation. I think we should follow up on it very, very closely, and please raise a red flag or a black flag if you'd like, whenever you think that we should push for something to happen. Because we really need, sometimes we need you to alert us that something concerns you. Because, you know, again, I saw this, the speech of the president of South Africa. I saw it on Twitter. But feel free to share with us your concern, and let's think together what we can do. Because again, as I said, this war is not, it's happening physically, geographically here. We know that it's happening to you too.
Thank you, Ayelet. Yael Salan, I'll call you in the coming days and we'll discuss your question and comment, but I feel like we have gone over time and we should wrap up for now. What I will say, in the chat, we have our email address, jready@jaffe.org. We also have the address that some of you were interested in, the idea of writing letters. They can be sent to 13 Hasharon in Ra'anana, addressed to the Fund for Victims of Terror, and we'll make sure they're distributed. I want to thank Ayelet so much for leading this seminar and this session with you, and answering all of these questions, and also in her absence, Amira, for also joining and sharing with you all about what's going on here in the work of the Jewish Agency. Please do reach out if there are additional concerns and things that arise that we can help you with in each of your communities. Of course, our emergency campaign is going on all across the world. Karen Hayesod is working very closely with us to fundraise in communities to address all of these emergency needs. So feel free to reach out to JReady, to your local Jewish agency representatives, and we just want to be here for you through everything. We do intend through JReady to host additional meetings as the war progresses. Hopefully this will all be over very, very soon and we won't have to worry about it, but as it seems, it's going ahead, and we have a long, long road ahead of us. Indeed, some people have reached out about the issue of the captives. We will discuss those going forward as well, and whatever you can do to put pressure on your governments, on your authorities. And if you've seen in New York, the big posters everywhere and the billboards, getting that message out, it's heartbreaking for all of us, and we just need to bring those people home. So Ayelet, again, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you, sending so much love and strength to all of Israel and all of our global Jewish family. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you so much. Hi, Nisim. Thank you all, really. Am Yisrael Chai. Loads of love. Thank you.